Hi there, I am Adam Kirbas from Ordu in the Black Sea region in Turkey on this rainy August day. So we are still in the pandemic. The Mediterranean region is plagued by floods and fires. I hope that everyone is doing fine and that we somehow will manage this, that we somehow will walk past this. I do believe that this is possible together. Today, I wanna continue with talking about my screenplay, and I think it is very important to talk about one issue, and this is of course what I talked about in the end in the last episode, and this is why I use Mexican names, Mexican or Spanish in that sense. Why do I do this in my screenplays, especially at Lifesaver? Of course, we talked about cultural appropriation. Of course, we talked about whitewashing, and I think this is very important here again to justify why I chose to do that. However, like I said the last time, this screen plays Lifesaver in special, but as well as in Invert, as well as all my novels. This is what I always said. This has, of course, real life occurrences. These things happened in a way or another, of course. The rest is fiction as well. So do not make a mistake about it. It is indeed parts of it fiction. So I intermingle it and mix it with real life occurrences, and these things, some of these things occurred in Austria as well as in Germany, and I use this as a part not only to sell a product or something, no, but to of course make aware about some circumstances, about some issues in the Austrian society as well as in Germany. Of course, it would be more appropriate to write it than in Austrian or in German. So Austria speaks German. The national tongue in Austria is German, as well as in the north and Swiss. So, but however, in order to have an influence into Austria, or in order to make the difference in Austria, of course, you would have to write about these issues in Austria, in German, of course, but because it would not make any sense if you would write about issues in Austria in English, and these people who are in Austria and Germany, who would be able to make the change, or who would be able to thwart some certain scary and concerning developments, so that they would understand you, of course, and of course, as well as everyone speaks German. However, one thing, I talked about this briefly, why I do not think that I should be writing in German. This had to do with whitewashing, because my intellectual productions, or what I think I contributed to the German culture, was always whitewashed by Austrians, who then claimed that I would be white, who then claimed some sort of denied my migrant heritage, denied my Middle Eastern heritage. This was not only the far right, this was as well as the left. In Austria as well as in Germany, the left is way more racist, the left is way more militant, and of course very aggressive, violent, but they got the answer. And of course, one of the reasons was that I decided when I would write in German or produce everything in German, then of course you help the wrong people who use your intellectual accomplishments in a way to draw a line between East and West, and especially with this rampant racism in the university in Austria, as well as in the society. I mean, these people use it in that sense that they claim that this would be not the product of a Middle Eastern man, this would be not the product of a foreigner, and so on. And they even, in that sense, whitewashed me, some of my productions, which went even so far with attempts on my life. And then they wanted to steal my identity in that sense, to replace me with an Austrian, an Aryan, in order to live or soothe this pain. We talked about it a little bit in cultural gender or culturalism, that some people, especially racist people in Austria as well as in Germany, this is not only the far right, but as well as the left people, white people. I mean, again, it is a big issue, but it is an issue whom we call white and black. And this is, of course, we talked about it in a great deal. This is always an issue, especially in continental Europe, but in that sense. So people in Austria as well as in Germany, they always grew up with the notion that they were superior to all others, especially to foreigners, to Middle Eastern, and they always grew up in the notion that Middle Eastern people are racially inferior, and because of this their cultural accomplishments are inferior, would be inferior. We talked about this briefly, and this is part of racism as well. And the saddest part in Austria was actually that these racial attitudes, prejudices are pretty much or go deep within the left in Austria. They have a lot of listeners within the left, and then of course this then started all these attempts of whitewashing in a way to destroy not only my life but as well as my accomplishments, like destroying like that I wouldn't have written all my stuff all alone, so that even feminists took part in this I would say shameful and this despicable action, so that some women claimed that they would have contributed or whatever, or would have in a way written, and that we would some sort of work in unison and so on. So the goal was in a way to eliminate this threat which I would be posing to the Austrian as well as German elite, as this foreigner, as this migrant man who is intellectually sophisticated. This was one of the reasons why people tried very hard to get rid of me. One of the reasons why I still have issues with identity theft. This is one of the reasons why I still have to fight, or I still have to ward off claims that I would not be writing all my stuff or by myself, that I would have collaborators and so on. And this was one of the reasons why I said to myself, or the reason why I said to myself, enough is enough. Every word I write in German, every word or every poetry I write in German, everything always contributes to a very dangerous development, a dangerous development within the society in Austria, within the intellectual elite in Austria. And this was actually then the reason why I said, no, I cannot go on like this. I don't want to go on like this. I cannot write about this. But of course now things became very apparent, and this was, of course, I wanted to make aware of issues, especially when you only consider now the developments in the US or everywhere, that this is indeed a big issue. Being a migrant is an issue, and I mean, it might be some sort of troublesome, because I tried to I try to avoid whitewashing, and now I some sort of take over, or in a way use in my screenplays Mexican or Spanish protagonists, and in that and I don't speak even Spanish. I don't speak fluent Spanish, not at all. So I didn't had. Okay, I had the possibility to learn Spanish, but I didn't, and I talked about it the last time as well. So the key is not about me. This is what you see in this screenplays as well as my attention is not my intention is not to talk about cultural issues within the Latin American community. I mean, I don't know anything about it, or I know little about it. I mean, of course, you have the media, and of course, in sociology, you get aware of some issues. I mean, this is not only the Latin Americans. This is as well as the Italo-Americans. There are sociological documents that they struggled as well to integrate into the American society, as well as the Irish. So because they were Catholics in the beginning, they were not even considered as white. So whiteness, as you can see there, as well as cultural aspect as well, and only later on were they considered as white. So Catholics were in a way then considered as part of the white race as well. Pardon me. However, and there are of course a lot of documents, and I said to myself, I mean, this was a big decision. Of course, I could have dropped it. I could have stopped writing about this perspective of a migrant, and then I decided, no, I don't want to do this. This migrant identity is a big issue. It's not only a big issue, but as well as an integral part of my identity, how I see the world. This is how I saw and happened to interpret and look in to the world. So this is nothing you can change. My parents were Turkish migrants, but of course, in addition to that, we were Armenians who Greek Armenians who grew up in the Ottoman Empire and then later converted to Islam. So even here in the Black Sea region, there are a lot of people who have Greek and Armenian ancestors. However, and we were one of those, and this is, I think, makes it very intricate, our identity. So it is not as simple as one might think, and this is very important. So it is not only that my grandfather, who was born an Armenian Christians, who had a few in this world as an Armenian in the Ottoman Empire, as well as then he some sort of made their descendants the heir of their perspective, of their worldview. So my father was not different from that, as well as my mother. So they inherited their worldview, and then later when my parents moved to Europe to work in Austria and make a living, of course, then these migrant views in Turkey as Armenian, then as Turk, and then as Turkish migrant in Austria have. These are the views which made me. These are, I think, is very important, and this is something you cannot just sweep aside with. I mean, I talked about this. I talked about it previously, and I just want to emphasize this again. And so someone who talks about cultural appropriation should not try to whitewash my accomplishments, or someone who talks about the necessity that other people needs to be heard as well should not try everything to prevent me from expressing my ideas, my thoughts, my